Don't park your car on stairs.
Maybe Japan On is talking about some of the people who steal other people's underwear, but still as a Japanese person, if I see someone doing it, it just really feels very uncomfortable.
From 1948 until 2016, it was prohibited to dance anywhere after midnight.
皆さんこんにちは and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. So now that I've started making react videos on my own, I'm starting to get a lot more requests. And one of the channels that I had a lot of requests to react to was Japan On. So in this video, I'd like to react to Japan On's YouTube shorts, and I'd love to tell you about my experiences and thoughts about the content they make. And by the way, if you haven't possibly checked out Japan On's channel yet, you really absolutely should because they make amazing content. It's something you cannot miss out, especially if you're willing to come to Japan sometime soon. In his channel, I've been reacting to videos related to Japanese history and culture. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy our content. So then let's jump right into it. Okay, so then let's get started.
Unusual things Japanese steal in Japan. Japan is known as one of the safest countries in the world, but there are some things that are likely to go missing, like your umbrella on a rainy day, the laundry that you left hanging outside, the bicycle that you parked in a sketchy area.
Sketchy area. These are unusual things though? Well, I've heard many times before that Japanese people use a lot of umbrellas. A lot of my friends told me that in different countries, you don't usually use umbrellas that much in the first place because it rains more often, or I kind of heard of that before. Maybe that's one of the things why, but yes, your umbrellas will often be stolen. Like for example, if you go to a convenience store and there's these places where you can leave your umbrellas, and once you put it there, you go in, buy something, come back out, because a lot of the umbrellas look similar. Someone could have just taken yours and there's someone else's left, and you don't want to take someone else's, and then you just end up having no umbrella. But for umbrella though, you can buy them everywhere though. You can buy them at convenience stores and they're not that expensive, so even if it's stolen, it's not such a big deal, but still it is not a very pleasant experience though, I would say. And about the laundry that may go missing, that is, I think, a completely different story. Maybe Japan On is talking about some of the people who steal other people's underwear. Sometimes there are people who commit these crimes and steal other people's very personal belongings, and it's very scary to be honest, but it is something that we often see in the news. But I guess that doesn't happen too much outside of Japan though. It'd be great if you can let me know. Maybe it's because there's a lot of, apartments and people living so close to each other, maybe that's possible. But if you're living in a very big country where your neighbors are very far away, you won't be able to do that. Secondly, you might not, first of all, dry your clothes outside. Maybe that's true because in Japan, commonly, I would say, I don't know, maybe about 70–80% of the people usually dry their clothes outside. So yeah, please let me know how it's different. And number 3 too, about bicycles. I have never actually had my bicycle stolen before, but when I was a high school student, when I was going to school on my bicycle, there were tons of my friends who got their bicycles stolen. Now, unlike the umbrella or maybe the clothes that might be stolen, bicycles are of course very expensive, so it's something that you do want to try to keep safe. But I guess for one-time visitors, if you're just traveling to Japan and you rent a bicycle, people usually wouldn't, steal a rental bicycle because it has all the names of the companies and maybe, numbers or maybe even some kind of GPS on it, I don't know. But so it's not something you should worry about if you're just traveling, but if you're living in Japan, it is very common that people have their bicycles stolen. So maybe an extra lock, or maybe getting into an insurance, or yeah, trying to park in a non-sketchy area, as they were saying, would be something that you should keep in mind because it is very common that your bicycle gets stolen. Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Things you shouldn't do in Japan.
Shouldn't do.
Don't enter a temple before purifying your hands. Don't give things with just one hand. Don't park your car on stairs. Don't leave a single grain of rice. Don't touch taxi doors.
Well, their shorts are just so fast. So the first thing they were saying, don't enter a temple before purifying your hands. Well, strictly speaking, it's not just temples, but also shrines too. both shrines and temples that have places where you need to purify your hands. And I think mainly it would actually be the shrines that you have to purify your hands, I believe. But to be honest though, after the COVID pandemic, there are quite a lot of places that don't have these anymore at all, or they have just running water there to purify your hands. Originally, you might have seen in YouTube videos before where you have the scoop and you do it on your left hand, your right hand, your left hand again, and then your mouth and all of these proper procedures. But many of the temples and shrines don't have them anymore, unfortunately. So as you probably can see in this video, they just have the running water and you just have to wash your hands and just purify your mouth a little bit as well. So strictly speaking, originally it was not just your hands, but you need to purify your mouth as well. And a second thing, don't give things with just one hand. Yeah, I guess the most respectful way to hand something to someone is definitely using both of your hands. Like the first thing that would immediately come to my mind would, for example, be the name cards. The business cards would be handed with two hands. Maybe a gift would be like that. In general, just be really respectful to use both of your hands. But, you know, if it's just a friend or a family or someone close to you, if you're just gonna be handing someone to them, just using one hand is completely fine too. It's not disrespectful with someone that's really close to you. And the third thing, don't park your car on the stairs. I do not know what kind of situation this is. I don't even know where this shrine is. This is something that I've never ever seen before. I cannot imagine how this happened. And the fourth thing, don't leave a single grain of rice. Yeah, it is something that we are taught as kids growing up in Japan that we shouldn't leave anything. You know, it's the mottainai culture you might have heard before. You know, it's a waste kind of thing. You don't want to waste anything. But to be honest, from probably our children's generation, maybe people who are younger than us, I think that the mottainai culture is starting to disappear. Because the original reason why the mottainai culture existed in Japan is because Japan lacked so many resources. Food itself was very scarce, so it was an important message to your kids to not waste anything and make good use of everything because there's not too much. But of course in Japan right now, we do have more food and we do have more resources than in the past, so not too many people are so strict about this anymore. Even there's a lot of adults leaving their food behind, for example, if they eat at a fast food chain restaurant and such. I personally really feel that it's something important. It's not just about if you have enough food or not, it's your mindset of not wanting to waste your food, or it's the mindset of respect to the person who made it for you to not leave anything. So I would definitely teach my children try not to leave as much as possible. But at the same time, do you have to force yourself to eat everything? That's a no. It's best that you try not to, but if you do, I think just saying one word to the person who served the food to you, saying that I just am a little bit too full, is completely respectful too. And the last thing, don't touch taxi doors. Wait, is this it only in Japan? The doors of taxis actually open on their own, open and actually close on their own. And this is something that even a Japanese person sometimes mistakes, you know? Because the driver actually has a special button on taxis that opens the door on the back. So you shouldn't touch it. Sometimes when you reach out for a door, the door opens and it hits your hand and everything, that kind of stuff happens. So yeah, you don't have to touch the taxi doors, you just wait. But something very embarrassing that I've done before is that the doors on the front side does not open on its own. So I was waiting for the door to open on the front side and the taxi driver opened the window and it was like, are you not coming in? I was like, oh, so this door is not automatic, you know? So the left back door opens on its own. The right side doesn't open, the front side doesn't open, only one door opens on its own. So that's one thing. But most cases you will ride from that door, so you don't have to touch it, the driver will take care of it for you. Okay, let's keep on going.
Things you should never do in Japan.
Don't stand on the right side of escalators.
Don't enter apartments with shoes on. Place them at the entrance.
Don't stick chopsticks into your food.
Okay, 3 things. So the first thing, don't stand on the right side of escalators. Now this is a little bit difficult one because depending on the region where you are, it's sometimes the right side, sometimes the left side. It really does depend on where you go. And basically people do stand on one side of the escalators. So basically one side is for people who just want to stand and wait. The other side is for people who want to walk up the escalators. So this is something that always happens wherever you go in Japan. But strictly speaking, if you take a look at the stickers of caution that is placed on the escalators, for example, it does tell you to not stand on the side you should not walk on the escalators for your safety. So basically, if you follow the rules properly, you should stand in the middle of the escalator, holding onto the handrails, and not walking is the safest way to do it. So this is, standing on the side of the escalators. It is commonly done, to be honest. No one is protecting the rules at all. But for example, if you have small kids, if you have big luggage, I don't want you to be sorry when you're blocking the escalators, because originally that is the proper way you should ride escalators safely. And then the second thing was about the apartments and shoes, right? Yeah, this isn't just apartments though. It's any kind of building in Japan, most cases. Like for example, if it's a ryokan hotel, Japanese style hotels, if it's a temple or shrine, if you're able to go inside one of the buildings, you would absolutely have to take off your shoes. And as I show in this video, it is definitely much more polite to turn your shoes to the other way when you place them at the entrance. So this is another thing that we're taught as kids in Japan, to try to neatly, place your shoes at the entrance of the house. It's again another sign of respect. You don't want to make other people's houses messy, or you don't want to have people coming to your house and seeing the mess at the entrance of your house, because that's going to be the first impression of the building, right? And also the final thing, don't stick chopsticks in your food. This is something that I talked about in my videos quite often as well. But again, this is something, if you stick your chopsticks inside your food, it is considered an offering to people who have died. So if you're, for example, giving an offering to a grave or at funerals and such, you would stick the chopsticks in the food to give to the people who are lost. It's basically a ritual that you do. And when you are just having your daily meals and such, you shouldn't do it, because of course it is a sign of bad luck and disrespect. And I completely understand it doesn't make too much sense. Of course, there is no one that's going to be literally coming up to you and scolding you, but still, as a Japanese person, if I see someone doing it, it just really feels very uncomfortable. Alright, so the next one.
Things I hate about living in
another
Japan.
one.
Fruits individually wrapped in plastic. If you were invited to a wedding, you'll need to pay 30,000 yen. Packed trains at rush hour.
Shugi. Oh, packed trains at the end? Okay. Okay, so fruits individually wrapped in plastic. Why would you hate about it though? Because it's just troublesome to open it up, I guess? Well, I personally would say that, Japan has a problem of overwrapping, right? Because it makes a lot of waste. I think that is a problem, but personally, if he means by that is because it's a lot of waste of plastic, I can completely understand. But otherwise, it's not that troublesome though. And by the way, Japan should absolutely quit its overwrapping culture. It's really outdated. Like maybe in the past, it might have looked like it's a kind of hospitality, but today, considering the environment problems and climate change and all of these things, it's definitely something we should quit immediately. And the second thing about the money paying, yes, there is a culture of having to pay a lot of money to take part in weddings. It's a proper kind of money called goshugi. So it's again another kind of ritual, I guess, in Japan. There's a lot of the gift giving culture in Japan too, which has a lot of rules, but this is considered one of them. And he explained here as 30,000 yen. The reason why it's 30,000 yen is because it cannot be divided by 2. So it's actually considered bad luck to give, for example, 20,000 yen, because that could be divided into 10,000 yen and 10,000 yen, right? So it's again one of these beliefs, old beliefs that Japanese people have as traditions. So basically, it doesn't have to be 30,000 yen. It could be 50,000, it could be 70,000 yen and such. So basically, the 30,000 yen would be the minimum, usually, to take part in weddings. But like, for example, people like me, when I had my wedding with Harumi, we were like, this tradition is just like, doesn't make that much sense. And today, it doesn't really matter that much, right? So we actually made a rule that everyone had to pay only 20,000 yen to take part in our wedding, because 30,000 and 20,000 yen makes a very big difference. And we made a rule that everyone would pay 20,000, so they don't have to consider how much they're gonna be paying and such. So I believe there are more young people who take these new rules too. So it's not always this rule anymore. And the last one, packed trains at rush hours. Well, this too, as I explained in one of my previous videos, it really does depend on where you are. I mean, if you're like in the bigger cities, like take for example, Tokyo, absolutely. Maybe Osaka, Nagoya, Fukuoka, Kyoto too, maybe a little bit packed, but otherwise, the other places maybe, slightly packed and such, but it's not such a big problem. I think that'll be the same anywhere. Like even if you're on a car, if you're on the street street on rush hours and there might be traffic, if you're riding a train or a bus or anything to school or to work, I think it'll happen anywhere. The problem of Japan though is that it has Tokyo, the super overpopulated Tokyo, and that's the reason why we often talk about this. But I would say outside the really big cities in Japan, it's not such a big problem though. It's something that you can definitely bear, and it's something that happens everywhere else in the world too. Okay, so then the next one.
3 weird laws that have existed in Japan. From 1948 until 2016, it was prohibited to dance anywhere after midnight. You can get sentenced for 5 years for putting ice cream in a mailbox, and you will receive a 10-year sentence if you are ever caught making a clone.
Is this true? I've never heard of these before. None of them before. Why was it prohibited to dance after midnight? Maybe it was to restrict the drunk people on the streets? But what's it's gonna help just by stopping them from dancing though? And also, ice cream in a mailbox. Is that even possible? Considering like how small the entrance of these mailboxes are? Well, I guess if you go and buy like those flat ones like Gari-Gari-kun, the really famous ice cream in Japan, I guess you could put that in, but why would you do that? Maybe there were some people at some timing in Japan that wanted to destroy, other people's letters or messages or whatever it is to try to stop them from doing some kind of activities when, society was a little bit more unstable, for example. That, I guess, could be understandable, but I have no clue. And the last one, ever caught making a clone of yourself or someone else? I don't know. I don't really like that Mewtwo is inside this capsule here, but this I don't get it at all as well. I mean, like, if some, common person had the skills or the knowledge and the technology to make a clone of something, they should arrest them, but they should probably support them, give them more money to do more research and everything, I guess. I have no clue why this law existed. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. So today I mainly reacted to their videos where they talked about the things you shouldn't do in Japan or things they don't like about Japan and such, but they actually have much more interesting content about the things that you can check out in Japan, go to Japan, visit, or things that are unique to Japan and such. So if you're interested, please check out their channel. They are really, really amazing. And as I always say, if there are any other channels or videos you would like me to react to, it'd be great if you can let me know in the comments. I will definitely take a look at them. And by the way guys, right now I'm actually challenging myself to raise money to go to school in order to obtain Japanese language instructor national qualification through Ko-fi right now. So it'd be great if you can support me. The Ko-fi page is inside the description box and also in the pinned comment. So I hope you can check it out and support me if you can. So I'll see you in my next react video. 皆さんどうもありがとうございました. Thank you so much for watching guys. ありがとうございました. See you again soon.